Hey, what's up, guys? I am here today to talk to you about the amazing plea deal for Dominick Black. Dominick Black, of course, is the Kenosha County City resident, friend of Kyle Rittenhouse, who purchased the gun that Kyle Rittenhouse would ultimately use in the self defense killing of Joseph Rosenbaum and, of course, of Anthony Huber and the wounding of Gaige Grosskreutz on that fateful day back in Kenosha. We now know, as has been proven in court, this was, of course, self defense. Anybody who had actually looked at the videos and understood what was going on knew that this was self defense from the start. But the news and the media have spun multiple lies about this case. And even though those lies have not borne out in court, people still believe the negative propaganda against Kyle Rittenhouse. And he's not alone in that. The other victim of media propaganda here was Dominick Black. Dominick Black has been accused of several things in regards to this particular firearm. One, that he was some sort of straw purchase, an illegal straw purchase, and two, that he provided this gun illegally to Kyle Rittenhouse on the night of the self defense shootings. Both of those things are incorrect, and Dominick Black has only actually been charged with one of them, and that is illegally providing the gun to a minor. Now, this is kind of a controversial charge in the at the onset, but let's kind of take a brief look at what happened, okay? Or not really a look. I'm just going to tell you what happened. So, a while back, before all of this riots and everything took place, Dominick Black purchased a gun with money provided to him by Kyle Rittenhouse. Now, Kyle Rittenhouse asked Dominick Black to buy this gun. He said, "Hey, can you buy this gun?" Dominick Black said, "Well, I can, but we're going to work out this thing where you don't get the gun until you're 18 years old." I mean, I don't know if that's exactly how the conversation went down, but an agreement was reached where he would purchase the gun using Kyle Rittenhouse's money, but the gun would remain in Dominick Black's possession until Kyle Rittenhouse was 18 years old, as he wasn't really able to have that gun on his own, they believed. Now, Kyle was not legally allowed to purchase this rifle because he was not 18. That is true. But does that automatically make it a straw purchase? No, it does not. We'll talk about why in just a second. But they would go up to land that Dominick Black's family owned, and Kyle would get to shoot the gun one or more times. We don't really know. It's not really important. But know that Dominick Black had primary possession of this gun, and Kyle Rittenhouse only had access to it while Dominick Black was around, or Dominick Black's father, or whoever that he lived with. The gun was actually stored at Dominick Black's father's house in a gun safe as well. This changed on the night of the shootings because there were riots going on, and as testified at trial, they brought the guns in from the gun safe, which was in the garage, because they were worried that someone might bust into the garage and take the guns. That's according to testimony. Whether or not you believe that testimony, that's what's there. And then there's some dispute over whether Kyle had permission to grab the gun or if Dominick Black just didn't say anything when Kyle did grab the gun. But then, of course, they would go out into the town of Kenosha, and Kyle would end up having to defend himself against three criminal assaults against him. Well, four criminal assaults against him, technically, but Jump Kick Man was never officially identified, and he, of course, was not actually shot by Kyle Rittenhouse. The two shots he fired missed. But that being said, Kyle acquires the gun from Dominick Black on that night and goes out and shoots him. So Dominick Black has never been charged with a straw purchase for Kyle Rittenhouse. And there are several reasons why he is not charged with a straw purchase. But the primary one is because a straw purchase typically requires some level of immediacy to the transfer of the firearm. Like, I give you the money, you go into the store, you grab the gun, you bring it and give it to me imminently, pretty quickly. The idea is never that you're going to actually own or possess the firearm, but rather it's mine and you're getting it for me in an effort to hoodwink or cover up the federal process, the federal background check process that happens when you buy one of these rifles. So if Dominick Black wasn't intending to buy the rifle as a straw purchase to immediately transfer to Kyle Rittenhouse, you're going to have real problems with the prosecution of a straw purchase. Even if he was ultimately buying it for Kyle to acquire at a later time, Dominick Black had to own and possess that rifle in the interim. And the interim here is a significant amount of time, something like 6 months. And so you've got issues with this whole thing. In fact, Kyle never legally owned this firearm. That's one of the big major issues with the prosecution. Even on the night of the shootings, Kyle Rittenhouse is 17 years old and he is given the gun by Dominick Black. And that is not actually ownership. No transfer of ownership takes place between Dominick and Kyle that is recognized anywhere, has ever been testified to, was witnessed by anyone. None of that has ever happened. On the night of the shooting, this is still Dominick Black's gun by all legal claims that we can suss out. Now, whether or not they had a private conversation about it, we'll never know, because if they're smart, they would never, ever talk about that. But there's not even a hint of that going on. So this is the main issue with the straw purchase and probably why it wasn't charged. How the heck are you going to prove it when there was never actually a transfer of ownership of the gun from Dominick Black to Kyle Rittenhouse, and all of the ownership appears to be in Dominick Black? And again, there's all sorts of circumstantial evidence of that ownership too. Dominick Black retaining possession and only giving it to Kyle while he's under some sort of supervision. And finally, the critical element of this is it's highly possible that Dominick Black could have either destroyed the gun, disposed of the gun, or transferred the gun to someone else without Kyle's consent, because Kyle never actually owned it. And Kyle might have had a, might have complained about it, said, "Hey, I paid money for that," or whatever. And Dominick Black would have said, "My gun." That's theoretically how this could have worked out. Of course, that didn't happen and probably wouldn't happen because the two remain friends. But this was never Kyle's gun. So you're not looking at a straw purchase here. So what was Dominick Black charged with? Well, he was charged with 2 counts of, how do I put this? Providing a firearm to a minor illegally in which death occurs. Both of those are felony charges, and the state charged out both of them because of the death of Joseph Rosenbaum and the death of Anthony Huber. Whether or not they would be able to stick to convictions on that is a different question that we'll probably never get to, because now there is a plea agreement on this case. Briefly, Kyle Rittenhouse did not illegally possess this firearm. And that is a huge problem with the underlying charge in this case, because the same set of facts exists for both Dominick Black and Kyle Rittenhouse. And it's the same actual statute with the same language that they're both charged under. Kyle Rittenhouse was charged with illegally possessing the gun as a minor, and Dominick Black as illegally providing the gun to a minor. And the language for both of those sections of the statute is substantially identical. There's no meaningful difference between them. So when you've got this issue, Kyle Rittenhouse gets his case dismissed, entirely dismissed. Everything is fine, and everything is great for him on this charge. Obviously, he had to go through and be found not guilty of the other charges, but this one, it was found dismissed because Judge Schrader said, "Hey, the state has not shown any illegal activity throughout the trial, and they have not even alleged that there was an illegal aspect of this gun that would put it under the statute." So it was dismissed. By logic, the same analysis should apply to Dominick Black's case, but there's been a little drama in regards to getting the charge dismissed for Dominick Black, with Thomas Binger allegedly stating that he would appeal this thing and run it up the chain if it was dismissed by Judge Schrader, who is also overseeing Dominick Black's case. So, were the judge to dismiss this, Binger has allegedly threatened to run this up to the appeals court, which would cost Dominick Black tens of thousands of dollars to fight this thing through an appeal, even if he's technically in the right. So rather than that happening, it looks like now a plea deal has been reached. And let me bring it up here. Here, this is from the Kenosha County Eye. They were the ones to break this story, as far as I can tell. But this is the proposed plea agreement signed on Friday, January 7th, by Dominick Black's attorney. It was proposed by Thomas Binger and signed on January 6th by him. So Binger is actually the one who brought this plea agreement out. There's a couple reasons for this. One, Binger probably knows that he can't with integrity sustain this prosecution in the way that he would need to try and bring this through an appeal. I mean, for whatever you want to say about Thomas Binger, this is probably the best move he's made so far, because the prosecution of this, in my opinion, is entirely unethical when you know that you don't have it on the other thing, and the appeal threat seems to be completely punitive against Dominick Black. There does also seem to be maybe a groundswell of public pressure in support of Dominick Black, whereas before Thomas Binger seemed to have kind of the media and the public on his side. He might have been seen as bungling the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Now, to be fair to Binger, who I am not a fan of, I don't think he bungled the Rittenhouse case in any way. He had what should have been an unwinnable case from the start, and he put forth probably the best prosecution that they could with the facts and witnesses that they had. But that being said, Kyle's case should not have been processed or prosecuted. Dominick Black's case definitely should not have been prosecuted at all. So what is this? What does this plea deal say? So if you go up into the top right corner, it's the state of Wisconsin, County of Kenosha versus Dominick Black. And then it's got the plea agreement number 1, contributing to the delinquency of a child. Now, this is a civil citation under a county ordinance. This county ordinance borrows language from a state law for a misdemeanor, and it actually directly references the state law of contributing to the delinquency of a child. However, this is under the county ordinance, so it's actually a civil penalty, more akin to like a speeding ticket than an actual misdemeanor. So he's pleading to effectively a citation, a ticket, a piece of paper. And the agreement, when we go down to section 3 here, or just below number 3, it says that the prosecution will ask the court to dismiss the following charges, and it has his entire criminal case listed there. So there are 2 of those felony charges. Both of those will be dismissed if the judge accepts this plea deal, which we'll talk about in just a second. But on the exchange of him being found guilty of this civil ordinance, or the civil county ordinance, and paying a fine of $2,000 within 30 days. So if the judge accepts this plea agreement, we will see the dismissal of the underlying felony charges, a guilty plea to this county violation, and then a fine of $2,000. And that will be it. I mean, that's the end of the case. So is this a good deal? Yes, this is an absolute dream of a deal you would kill for as a defense attorney. Then, of course, you'd be defending yourself. But you would absolutely want to get this result for a client every single time. If you can turn felonies into civil violations of a county ordinance, you have done absolutely astounding work. As a defendant, do you want to do this? Yes. Yes, 99.999% of the time, this is the way to go. Sure, he's pleading guilty to this civil ordinance. That's something that should not have any impact on any of his rights going forward for the rest of his life. And he gets to basically say, this is a complete nothing burger, and he'll move on from this for the low price of $2,000. Now, some people out there might say, well, he's not guilty. This should never have been charged. And I agree with you 100%. He's not guilty, and this should never have been charged. He didn't actually commit the criminal act he was charged for. However, proving that out in court, fighting through a trial if you have to, or even getting dismissal, but then going to an appeal, on this issue is tens of thousands of dollars to up to even $100,000 in a relatively high profile case. And the real risk is that a jury and judge disagree with you and you ultimately are found guilty of the criminal act with severe penalties, a felony conviction, very likely jail time in prison in Wisconsin. Do you want to do that? Most people would say no, that's not on their list of things to do. So you would take this deal, pay $2,000 versus, 50, 60, $70,000 fighting the case, and then you walk away and get on with your life. And I think at this point, just about everybody involved in the Rittenhouse trial wants to walk away and get on with their life. So there is a minor possibility that the judge will reject this plea agreement for one of two reasons. Plea deals for the judge's ethical obligations must be supported by a sufficient factual basis to find a person guilty of a criminal act. You have to have actually done the criminal act or enough facts to convict you for a criminal act to get a plea technically. Now, we know, of course, or maybe you don't know, and I'll tell you right now, that there are thousands to tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of criminal acts that are pled out to that there's not a sufficient factual basis for in this country every single day. That is true. That is correct. It happens all the time. People plead to stuff that they didn't do for any number of reasons. But in the idyllic academic approach to a plea agreement, it should be true that sufficient facts exist to support the conviction. Now that can happen even if you're justified, right? If you have a justification or a defense, the facts tend to exist for the underlying criminal charge. The justification or the defense are an excuse for what happened, but they don't mitigate the facts that occurred. In this case, you do have a problem because what Dominick Black did isn't actually under the original felony statute. And this statute that he's pleading guilty to, or this ordinance, I should say, the contributing to a delinquency of a minor, they may not have the factual basis. Now, this ordinance is written so broadly that I think just about anything qualifies, because under this ordinance, the minor doesn't even have to do anything illegal. They just have to be able to theoretically do something illegal. So on this one, you do have Dominick Black giving Kyle Rittenhouse possession of a gun. And in theory, I guess he could have run off and illegally used the gun rather than legally, and that would probably be sufficient for a conviction in this ordinance. So they probably have it. But Judge Schrader could say no. There's not enough facts to support that. The other reason he could say no is he could just dismiss the charges. He could say you didn't have sufficient basis to dismiss these charges, and then he could dismiss it. Now, at that point, he would risk an appeal from Binger. He would risk that appeal, and if that appeal goes through, he could get overturned. It could impact Wisconsin state law going forward, and Schrader may not want to be involved in that. The easiest way out for everybody in this case is to just accept the plea agreement that the parties have agreed to, and most of the time, judges are going to do just that. So we will see what ultimately happens on Monday. That's tomorrow from when this video is being recorded, but I would suspect that we're going to see this plea agreement agreed to. We'll see it fulfilled, and then everybody will get to go on their merry way, and we can simply look forward to Binger's firm prosecution of Joshua Ziminski that is allegedly coming up pretty soon this year. But I hope that is a sufficient explanation for you as to what's going on with Dominick Black. This news came out late on Friday, so I wanted to get a video up and explain exactly what's going on, why this is a phenomenal deal. And honestly, it doesn't matter how innocent your clients are. If they're charged with a felony and you have the opportunity to bring them a $2,000 buyout of that felony with virtually no consequences for the rest of your life, you will take that deal 100 times out of 100, and then you'll ask for the deal again. It's so good. Just want to put that out there. If anybody's actually upset that Dominick Black's not fighting this, if you were in this situation, this is a deal you would be begging for. So I think it's the right move. And of course, my opinion doesn't matter, though. I'm not his attorney. I'm just a guy on the internet. And with that, thank you all for watching. I'll catch you next time. Remember that I live stream basically every weeknight at 11 p.m. Central, and typically every weekday at 1 p.m. Central, unless we're covering a trial, in which case I'm on the trial's schedule. Until next time, thanks for watching. Peace. Peace.